are live. This is AA Beyond Belief, a podcast by, for, and about people who have found a secular path to sobriety and Alcoholics Anonymous. And my name is John, and I'm here with Angela from Boise, Idaho. How you doing, Angela?
I'm doing well.
Good. It's nice to hear you again.
You too. Oh, and I listened to the podcast you put out with Mikey.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, and went to their meeting last Wednesday.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, and it was fun. I mean, there are like 160 people in there.
It's amazing.
So that was kind of crazy. I had no idea it was that big.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of cool. It was fun I think I'll definitely visit it again. So for those who aren't familiar, you can listen to that podcast and to get an idea and then go visit them. It seems like some really fun people. Definitely the goofiest kind of meeting, but there is still a lot of substance to it. But yeah, it was fun. So, and not a lot of meetings are that fun. You can get stuff out of them and relate to people and get all the good stuff and blah, 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 grow and whatever. But this one made it kind of fun and goofy. So I liked it.
Yeah, it's pretty neat what they've done. They have all those graphics and the sound effects and all of that. It's pretty neat, and he's figured out a way to. The meeting is pretty safe, so they know how to handle the bombers, and they know how to keep the meeting from drifting off into like God, no God, religion, no religion, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, no, it was good. I enjoyed the participatory part of it, that, they have put up a thing of different topics, and then everybody gets to vote on, what topic for the night. And so I thought that was fun. And it was just kind of a different experience for a meeting than I've had in a while.
Yeah. So I want to make sure.
Bob was there with me.
Really?
I couldn't see him because there was 160 people. And so I shared, and then Bob shared right after me. And I just kind of thought that was funny.
They're going to be having a Star Wars meeting here pretty soon, or was that the one?
Yes. No, they're doing one for their Halloween show. Is it on the 31st or something like that? No, it's the day before. I think it's the 30th. Is the 30th a Friday? I don't know. But yeah, I think that's when they're doing it. So
well, I definitely have to check that out.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are in the Facebook and the YouTube chat room, can you just confirm for me that you're hearing Angela and I okay?
Yeah, we were having a little bit of feedback when I first joined today. So
I assume that they can hear us. Nobody's saying that they can't hear us, so I hope that they can. Anyway.
Yeah.
So today's topic, actually, when I wrote this topic out, it doesn't sound real positive, does it? What good is gratitude? I'll give you a little story behind that. But before we go into the topic, though, let me make some announcements of some things that are coming up.
You have to have a little sound thing that has a bugle
for announcements.
For that. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I do have anything like that. Anyway, I can do there we go.
No. All right.
Okay. All right. So here we some announcements. Okay. So
I'm louder again. Sorry, everybody. I don't have a way to control my volume.
Oh, does someone say that? Angela is louder though. Okay.
Yeah.
I can fix that. That's a little setting that I have here. I'm learning more. The stream now. I'm going to sound a little bit different for a little while. Now that might balance us out.
Does this balance us out, everybody?
Hope so. What happens is streaming is a different animal than just recording without streaming, because the sound is kind of filtered through different tubes, I guess. I don't know, but hopefully we're balanced out a little bit better now. Okay. So I've actually got some podcast interviews scheduled that I'm excited about. Oh, good. It's better. Thank you, Paula. I hear that. Okay. So a friend of yours, I think, Angela, I don't know. Do you know Chia from the I'm going to be interviewing her this weekend.
Okay, cool.
She's going to just give us an update about what's going on with the Secular Al-Anon group over there in Boise. Oh, good. Hi, Christopher. Good. I'm glad you can hear us. Okay. So I'm looking forward to that. She just happened to write. She sent an email just to touch base, I guess. I said, you know what? I'd like to hear what's going on with you guys.
Yeah.
Then this other person who emailed us, his name is David Whitesock,
Mhm.
and he listened to our podcast about Recovery Capital.
Mhm.
And he wrote in his email that he came up with a way of measuring recovery capital called the Recovery Capital Index. I thought,
Ooh.
well, that's interesting. Let's talk about this. And I didn't know anything about the guy, And then I
Mhm.
started researching him on the internet, and the guy's like a Renaissance man. I mean, he just does a little bit of everything. He went to school as an architect, and then he became a lawyer. He had a really bad drinking problem, spent some time in jail. Hey there, Joe. Just did all kinds of stuff. This guy, anyway. So he's
Uh-huh.
come up with this. I don't know how he came up with this. This guy's not a scientist or a doctor, but he came up with this recovery capital index so that you can actually measure your recovery capital. So anyway, that's gonna be really
Yeah.
interesting talking to him. I'm just gonna say, hey, explain this to me because I don't know anything about it. So that'll be interesting. Yeah. And then Luke Worsfold from the United Kingdom,
Mhm.
he has a podcast called Inside Addiction, Lisa Inside
Mm.
Addiction. And he's like a therapist he is a therapist over there in England, and he is also a person in recovery. We have some things in common. He's a bit younger than me and got sober a little bit in more modern times. but, but I look forward to speaking with him.
Cool.
And also on that one, and also the same one with David. We're gonna do those, but video, And so
Ooh.
I'm kind of getting bold and flirting with the breaking of
Yeah.
anonymity a little bit, but as far
Wow.
as I'm concerned, I'm still anonymous.
Mhm.
I'm just out there without a last name, just a last initial, and the
Yeah.
only people that who will know me are people who already know me, I think. So anyway, I'm gonna do it because I want to do it anyway. So
All right.
maybe come on. So
Well.
anyway, so that was coming up, and then also some other things that are coming up, some fun things is the virtual. Well, actually, before that, on November the 15th, there's going to be another emotional sobriety seminar that features John R. from Arizona,
Mhm.
Joe C. from Toronto,
Mhm.
Maria Hornbacher from I think somewhere in Minnesota, and she's the author of
Did she move? She
I don't
was
know.
in from Berkeley area.
Oh, is she really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that. I always thought she was from like Minnesota or something. She's in
Okay.
California?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. So anyway, Maria is the author of Waiting and Non-Believers Higher Power. And she's really a talented writer and a very fast talker. We'll see if she can
Mhm.
slow it down a little bit. And then of course, Dr. Alan Berger, who is the author of 12 Stupid Things We Do in Recovery and other things like other books like that. And so it'll be fun to see what they have to say about emotional sobriety.
Yeah. I'm
And
looking
then
forward to more about the digestive system. Those are
yes, more
really
about
good
the digestive
metaphors.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. One thing I'm going to encourage Dr. Berger not to do is eat while we're during the
Well, if he
seminar.
has to demonstrate it for us to get the point,
He
then
didn't
yeah.
know he was on camera, I think, but it
Yeah.
was okay.
Yeah.
And coming up after that will be on December 5th, and it's going to be here before you know it, and I'm just going to be a guy working on the background on this one, but it's going to be the virtual ICSA on December the 5th. And I have not been checking the ICSA email. So hopefully some people have been emailing wanting to volunteer for that. I'm going to check it. One reason I have not been checking it is because I'm not wanting to deal with stuff that I'm not doing.
Mhm.
It's like I've got all this crap I got to do, and it's like I don't want to do it, so I just kind of avoid it. But anyway, there's a bunch of email in there, I'm sure. But the virtual ICSA, because we aren't meeting in October in DC or Bethesda, we're going to have a virtual International Conference of Secular AA. And so we're going to have a history panel, number one.
Mhm.
And the history panel is going to include Bob Kay, um, the author of Bob Schomburg, what's his name? The author of writing the big book, Bill Schomburg.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
The
Chris,
really big one. The big
yes,
one on the big
the
book.
huge giant big book. Yes. And then I should look at. We just wrote this up anyway. Oh yeah, Chris Finan, author of Drunks, and
Hmm.
that he's he's got a good book. That's an excellent book, and I had him on a podcast. So anyway, and then Jackie from the AA History Symposium in the Bay Area of California, she will be hosting it, and she's like a very talented person. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I think we're probably, no promises, but we're going maybe John John from England, hopefully will show up. And then we have a speaker, one of the original speakers that was going to be at DC will be there. And then and then they're also looking for like volunteers for people that want to have panels and workshops or anything. We're thinking that we can probably have more than one thing going on at a time, just like you would at a regular conference, because we're going to have we don't know how we're going to do this. We're just kind of guessing. So
okay,
there you go. And then finally, I want to encourage you. I'm going to put this link out there to listen to the last Higher Palooza. If you didn't go to Higher Palooza last time, check this out. Here's the link where you can listen to the audio. But on that Higher Palooza, Josie and Mikey from Orlando, and then a woman I think from the Cleveland area, they all spoke, and it was just a fantastic meeting. I really enjoyed that. So it's worth listening to. Mikey was actually my favorite, and I probably shouldn't have favorites, but he was just so funny. It was just great. He had such a great sense of humor and a good way of delivering a message with a sense of humor that I just really enjoy. So it was just a lot of fun.
All right, I might give it a listen. I have a weird thing with the name. I don't know if
Higher Palooza.
it just I'm like, that does not sound like something I want to listen to. But yeah, I'll trust you on that. And I've heard that Josie guy is pretty good too. So yeah, we'll give it a shot.
Yes. You know what? We should invite the Higher Palooza people on our live stream and ask them questions about why they're calling it Higher Palooza, etc. And have them talk about it. It might be interesting.
Yeah,
but they
interrogate them. Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, please come on our show so we can interrogate you.
Well, we have a lot of people out there today. 28. I think that's maybe the most we've ever had at one time. And I'm just sitting here blabbing. Hey, Bobby Kavanaugh and Bob K, and Dale K, lots of K's, and Jackie and Bree. Oh boy, and Joe and Chris. Just great. Yeah. Okay. So the topic today, what good is gratitude? And maybe we can make it more positive than it sounds. But, here's what happened. So this week.
Tell us a story, John.
I'll tell you the story. This week, my wife lost her job. And it was like she woke up and went to work that morning, and she wasn't expecting to lose her job. And it just happened. That's the way it was. And the deal is, she works for a museum, and during the middle of a raging pandemic, people just don't want to go to museums, So the museum, and we have a great museum here, is really hurting financially. And the last thing they wanted to do was cut positions, but they had to cut like 15% of their salaries of their people. So my wife was one of them. And so at first I didn't know what the situation was going to be, and I was sad for her. I was sad pretty much all day long for her, and waiting for her to tell me the news and so forth. And I did, and then I was kind of, I guess, worried about finances and that kind of thing. But as it turns out, we're going to be fine. The museum was very generous with their severance, so that we're going to be just fine. And but knowing that we're going to be just fine didn't take away all this emotional crap I was feeling. I was still really depressed and worried, and I don't know, I just wasn't feeling very good, and I couldn't shake it. And so I thought to myself, why am I feeling this way? I mean, I should be grateful, because there are so many other people that there are people out there in food lines right now, for goodness sakes. And there are people who lose their jobs and don't have a great severance package. And there's a lot, and I guess I can't think of people whose suffering is worse, to make me feel better. But I was just thinking, I should be grateful. But then I talked to myself. I thought to myself, well, maybe I shouldn't be grateful. Maybe trying to force myself to be grateful is just a way of avoiding the reality of whatever I'm dealing with, and maybe I just need to experience whatever feelings I'm dealing with and just move on. And I think ultimately that's what happened. But my wife, she came home and she's happy. She's glad. she's got a bird out of that job anyway. And she's going to still get paid for like a year and a half, which is really crazy. Yeah. So she doesn't have to do anything. And we were kind of thinking that she was going to retire like in 3 years anyway. Mm-hmm. So she's getting pretty close to retirement. So she's pretty much figuring she's not even bother going out to find a job. She's going to retire now. And then that set in a whole other thing of me realizing that, my retirement was just like 4 years away too. And so I'm getting into that whole new phase of life, I guess, where, we won't be working anymore. And that's going to be really weird. So anyway,
just think of all the things that people are going to rope you into as soon as that happens.
Yeah. So I just had a lot on my mind, I guess. And so I we didn't really have a topic. So I threw that out there. And I do think that gratitude, it is something that I know we've talked about it before, but I think usually when I feel gratitude, I can't force it. It's just a feeling that comes, and it's probably a byproduct of something. For example, I'm probably going to have a feeling of gratitude later on as I look back on what we went through this week and seeing how we came through. I don't know, but anyway, that's just to start it off. Angela, I will let you. And please don't try to. I'm not asking for people to fix me or anything. I don't want to be the topic or anything, but I just want to kind of just put it out there of what I went through, and maybe everybody can share their experience with gratitude and how they use it. So there you go.
Okay. Well, what I think you need to do is just kidding. Yeah. It's funny, at my home group, there's somebody that is an old timer, and he hates the topic gratitude since we started the group. So, for 12 years, 13 years, 12 years, going on 13 years, that if anybody brings up gratitude, he's grumbled. Although now he's kind of transitioning to secular Buddhist. And so it's, he grumbles a little bit less, but it always made me laugh that he would grumble with gratitude. And so I was thinking about it, and I read a lot. I read a lot on self-help and trauma and addiction and resilience and things like that. And this week I've been attending off and on. There's been an embodiment conference, is what it's called. And they have like all of the trauma all-stars, as I call them, like Bessel van der Kolk and Gabor Mate and Peter Levine and just all the people. And so I've got to listen to a lot of great talks on resilience, and Jack Kornfield and his wife, Trudy, I can't remember the last name right now. They did a couple of meditations, and those were really great. I wasn't sure how great they were going to be, but I was surprised. They were really good. And they were kind of speaking to this time that we're in as well, and trying to offer something to help people ground themselves and be present and to get through this very stressful time. Oh, yeah. And so listening to all of that, when you said gratitude, it kind of reminded me of, the different things that I've been participating in via Zoom this week, and the importance of it, and it does make me smile because, it's gratitude, something that I can joke about oftentimes, because like when I got sober, it was something that my sponsor had suggested to me to write down, 3 things that I was grateful for each night. And I, and I was always sarcastic about it and just, took it to, the silly level of, I'm grateful I'm not, a 6-year-old girl, pulling hypodermic needles off of a pile of garbage in Brazil or something like that, and, but the funny thing was that, as I was doing that, things started to change a little bit. And some of the things that I've learned this week, and as I've been going along in my learning, is that, when you do concentrate on the good, not ignoring the bad, but, put a special emphasis on the good, that you start to see more good, Another thing that she had me do was to put, I'm beautiful on my mirror, like a little sticky note, because I was having some self-image and body image and things like that. And I'm like, that is just really stupid. But yeah, and I look at it every day because it's there. And then, after a while you kind of, it's there and don't look at it as much. But there came a time that actually, I looked at it and was like, it wasn't a, seriously, it was a, makes sense, and so it changed. And so I thought of myself differently. Not, a lot of work went into it. I was doing other work, I suppose, at the time, but for that specific thing, it really did help change the way that I thought about things slowly because of the repetition, I think. And so, with gratitude, it tends to be the same thing. And the books that I've read and the podcasts I've listened to and all of that indicate that, if you concentrate on gratitude, that you'll, feel more gratitude. It'll start to be a part of you. Rick Hansen, who is a psychiatrist in California, he wrote the book Resilient and something about Dharma. He's a mindfulness, and takes that approach as well to the way he does things. And he uses that quote of the, neurons that fire together, wire together. So it's kind of like, if you're thinking about gratitude and thinking about a specific thing, like, you're grateful that your wife is kind to you, about a certain aspect, then you really start to integrate that into the picture that you have of your wife. And so then you have, more feelings of warmth towards her that come in, particularly when, something may happen that triggers the negativity bias, which is what we all have. And right now there's a lot to be negative about, so, I guess it comes to attention too, so what we choose to focus on tends to affect how we feel. And so if we choose to focus on gratitude, at least for a part of the day, then we tend to feel better, both physically and emotionally, or we start to. So that's something I've been trying to pay attention to, is where my attention's at. And some of that actually started after watching that Netflix show on the social dilemma. I had already cycled down a little bit of my internet use or my social media usage, but that helped me as well to see it from another angle, from more experts. I'm big on experts saying stuff and then integrating, what they say. And so trying to gain back some of what has my attention, or at least an awareness of what has my attention. Am I concentrating too much on some sort of negative thing that I heard via another person that was in the news or something like that? Or am I, using my attention to, continue to grow and to continue to learn, which is how I generally prefer to do things, is to continue to learn. And yeah, and so I've been working on that, and I've found that seems to be the most helpful for me right now, because we're, I don't know how many days until the official election,
Mm,
and I'm actually, I'm doing okay. I'm
good.
pretty neutral on things, and that
Yeah.
was what I was hoping for, is that I, not neutral on the issues or anything,
Sure.
but neutral on my feelings. I was
Right.
really afraid of some super overload, because there's a lot of messaging going on that is
Yep.
trying to trigger my overload.
Yep. Yep.
And so, yeah, so I've been trying to watch my attention on, I want to be informed as much as I need to be, and not more than I need to be, that
Oh
it would
God,
cause
yeah.
me
It's
to
easy to
be
get overloaded with
obsessed.
information, isn't it?
Yeah, and so instead, I'm doing listening to all of these podcasts.
Mhm.
I listened to that book, Breath, the new science of a lost art, and that was really great. I highly recommend that book. And I've actually listened to it twice in the last week, because I liked it so much. I had to share it with my partner, and so then I listened to it with him as well. Um, and listening to The Restaurant at the End of the Universe, which is the sequel to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I read it a long time ago, but hadn't reread it or listened to it in a while. So I'm doing that. And I'm finding that actually it goes really well with the stuff that I'm learning about computational physics, which is surprising to me that yeah. The stuff he wrote in those two books seems to go pretty hand in hand with it. I'll have to research his background a bit more, but it makes me laugh, and I'm enjoying that. And so
Yeah.
it's great to me. It feels good that I'm at a spot right now where
Yeah.
where I'm actually doing pretty good with
Good.
things. And gratitude is a big part of that.
Yeah.
I do agree that sometimes you have to sit in things and not just gloss over
Mhm.
stuff, because I feel like I've heard that a lot in meetings, is
Mhm.
somebody will say blah 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 blah, and then somebody will say, well, go to gratitude. And and it's like, well, yeah, we can always get to a place where we know that whatever's going on with us is generally, there are people that have it worse, and
Right.
things. And so it could be a spiritual bypass.
Yeah.
But, I also don't, I think that we have often tend to stay and to wallow and to build resentments, and I can't think of the other R word that I'm thinking of regarding sitting in things.
There's some
Reminisce? No, that's not it. Anyway, but yeah, so feeling it, processing it, I guess, is a good way of doing it. And then also, and you can feel crappy and be sad and be in grief or whatever it
yeah.
is, and still practice gratitude. Just by keeping that in mind. But, I think that from what I've heard and read, that, science is pretty clear on that,
Mhm.
whatever you have in your focus is how you'll
What will
feel.
be.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you practice, thinking of, the good, either gratitude or just the good in the world that you see, some of the gratitudes I've written down in the past have been, regarding beauty and
Yeah.
stuff, and that my ability to see beauty now, more than I did, my ability to be able to look at a leaf when I'm going on a walk and see the texture to it, and all of those kinds of things. So yeah.
There's some interesting comments in here, Angela. I'd like to
Okay.
kinda, use as kind of a guide to some discussions. There's really good ones in here.
Okay.
Bob wrote something interesting. He says that when he was newish, he hated the gratitude topic. It called attention to how lousy he was doing.
Mm,
He guesses it's supposed to inspire new people, but it might backfire at times.
mm,
Yeah, I can relate to that. I mean, I guess when I was newish, and I mean the first 6 months, even a year, I mean, it was not easy. Although I did experience a bit of a pink cloud, and I'll never forget it. I was driving, through the countryside in rural Kansas, and it seemed like the grass was greener and the
Mhm.
sunflowers were bigger and more yellow and the sky was blue, and it was just everything was so crisp and clear, and it was just really bizarre. It was like, I don't know, I just had that experience, and then I started feeling, I think the first time I started feeling actually grateful, I was probably about 9 months sober. And I think what happened, if I remember right, the first time it was like I was like in my apartment on a Sunday, and I was reading the newspaper, and it just kind of dawned on me that that was something I hadn't done since I was a kid, you know,
Mhm.
being sober on a Sunday reading a newspaper. So I don't know, things like that, and then so yeah. But I guess I know he's talking about early on when people were talking about that. I couldn't relate because there wasn't a lot going on that I was grateful for.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think that when people talked about it early on, for me, that it gave me probably some hope. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a sense that what annoyed me more was resentment topics, which usually, if you're talking about gratitude, resentments in there, or they go hand in hand at a lot of meetings. But there are resentments where what annoyed me, because as I've mentioned before, one of the guys was resentful that his personal airplane wasn't going,
Yeah.
and I remember in my first several weeks, a woman who was resentful that the apartment she moved into didn't have a dishwasher, and
Mm,
those are the things
yeah.
that annoyed me. It wasn't what people were grateful for. I think some of the talk
Oh,
about
I
what they were
know.
grateful for were things that I wanted, where
Right.
they were sharing that they were grateful that they were able to get their debts paid,
Right.
and that they were buying their
And
first
that gives you
house.
hope.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
I
and then it's
know.
like,
Yeah.
okay, so this person, they
I
talk
know.
about being a drunk as well, or whatever it is they want to call themselves.
Yeah.
And so that gave me hope, and also, started to develop the understanding that gratitude is something that I could cultivate, that it
Yeah.
wasn't that I had to feel it, but that by doing it on a regular basis, it would hopefully I would start to change. It would sink in and stuff. And that, yeah, if I continued along this path, then hopefully I would be grateful for similar things.
Joe here says, gratitude has always struck me as an older adult trait. Entering AA as a young person, I had no use for gratitude. He's kind of like Bob. It
Mhm.
made no sense. I was still fighting to get my share for many years while growing through sobriety. It's different now. I am grateful in different ways now.
Mhm.
Gratitude always struck me as something I was supposed to have and never did.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's something that came to him later in his sobriety.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, and it is kind of a different kind of a gratitude, and it strikes me as kind of it surprises me sometimes just like maybe, of course, I'm not driving to work now, but the driving to work and realizing that I'm sober, so something like that,
Yeah.
and remembering the times when I would go to work all hungover and sick, or not have a job,
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
thing.
Or like in the little pieces of like when you get sick, when you get the flu, and you're
Oh
feeling so
yeah.
awful, and you're like, oh shit, I used to feel like this almost
Oh, I
every
know.
day.
I
Or
know. I
you
know.
remember the hangover
Oh,
feeling and
yeah.
just
I
being
remember the
so
first time
awful.
it's kind of a weird
Ugh.
thing, but I remember the first time I threw up when I was sober. It's like, this is really weird, But it doesn't happen very often, but it's like, it used to happen all the time,
Right,
It's like,
yeah,
now it
like,
hardly ever
"Wow, what?"
happens. Yeah.
My body just does this, and I didn't do anything to make it happen? So, yeah.
Peter has a question, and
Mm,
this will be an interesting one that people can
yeah.
chime in on and call in too if you'd like to talk about it. 844-899-8278. Anyway, he says, John Angela, how do you feel about the practice of introducing oneself as a grateful alcoholic? And he has a funny face. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm grateful. I'm not an active one, but not that I was one in the first place.
Yeah. Well, I don't particularly have an attachment to how people introduce themselves,
Mm,
for the most part. So if it makes them happy, then cool. I can see why some people do,
Yeah.
and the identity part of it. I think
Right.
that it's that they feel that they've become the person that they are now, which is hopefully a better person than they
Yeah.
were when they came in, because of being an alcoholic and finding something that can help give them values and
Right.
a way of living and stuff.
Yeah.
So I get what they're saying,
Yeah.
and I also see that, yeah, I'm grateful that I would be more grateful if you weren't one. I don't know, for me, I guess in the long run that it's hard to tell, because
Yeah.
there's part of me that always knew that I would likely be one. I mean,
Yeah.
it's on both sides of my family and both parents on both sides, and so it's on the family tree there was a very small chance that I wouldn't be an alcoholic,
Yeah.
and so yeah,
I've
I
never introduced myself that way,
yeah,
but I have heard it, and I understand what people are saying. I don't know if they're necessarily grateful that they are an alcoholic who went through alcoholism. Maybe they are. I don't know, but
yeah,
they're grateful that they're in AA. But who knows how things would have turned out? I mean, I am grateful that I'm sober. There's no doubt about that. I am convinced that had I gone on drinking, I don't think I would have lived through it much longer. I mean, I was still a
yeah,
fairly young person. I was having some serious problems with that, and I was headed to jail or death, and that was just
mhm,
the path I was on. So I'm
yeah,
very fortunate that I got sober as a young person, and that I've been able to stay sober all this time and have a nice life.
mhm,
I have a life that I never dreamt I could have had in when I was drinking. Even in my early sobriety, I never could have imagined, all these years later, that I'd have the life that I have today,
mhm,
and a sense of security. I mean,
mhm,
that's what when you look at my fourth step, when I look at my fourth step, the thing that I noticed about myself is I had this deep insecurity my entire life.
mhm,
And I feel secure today. I feel secure in so many different ways. I feel secure in that I feel loved. I feel secure in that I feel like I'm okay. I'm safe. I have
mhm.
food and shelter and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and I don't feel like people are going to leave me. It's a great thing. It's a great freedom. So yeah. Anyway, some
Yeah.
more comments here.
Okay.
Dale says when he went to his first secular AA meeting in the mid 1980s, the subject was gratitude. He was so pissed and confused. I thought I was going to hear something different from regular AA.
Yeah.
He was pissed.
Oh, I yeah. Sounds like
Oh, he
you.
was at a secular meeting and he
Yeah.
thought that it was going to be different. He didn't think that people were going to be talking about gratitude. But it's
Yeah.
like, some people think that you have to be grateful to something, like you have to be grateful to
Right.
God, right? And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
that's a lot of people do express their gratitude in
Yeah.
that way. And it does
Yeah.
kind of drive me crazy, because I'm not grateful to God.
Yeah. I have well, I don't know if I have an issue with the word. Well, when I hear thankful, that's where I go a little bit more,
Mm,
is that it's like a gift.
right.
Whereas, gratitude for me is more of a, an inside job. But
Yeah, it's a feeling to
yeah,
me.
I think it could be, have to do with how you're raised, and if you're really raised in a particular, religion or faith tradition or region or things like that. I think all of that can play into, how you think of both the term and how it's discussed. It was funny. I spoke in the agnostic AA meeting. I think it's the Village or something in New
Mhm.
York. Someone asked me to come and share my story, and so I was I was there, and they were doing their intro stuff, and they said, okay, Angela's now going to qualify. And I
Oh
got
yeah.
confused because,
Yeah.
because I'm like, what, because, and I was confused. I'm like, I've never heard it as qualified before. And then I
Right.
just went on and talked, but somebody in the meeting then brought up that, you haven't heard of qualifying.
Mm,
And in where I'm from, qualifying is the first part of your experience, strength, and hope that you share. So it's
right.
where talk about that, the stupid things you did, or why you're an alcoholic, and blah blah blah.
I never heard that before until I went, like, in the 90s, I went to some AA meetings in New England,
Mhm.
in Rhode Island, and in Southern Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And they would talk about qualifying and what they would do. And this is the first time I've heard about that. This is really weird. But what they would do, like the person who would chair the meeting would qualify, and they just give like a little snippet of their story, I
Mhm.
guess, to kind of like prove that they belong, or to make people
Right.
feel like they're qualifying, they're giving their qualification. And then after they do their spiel, then they go on to the rest of the meeting. But it always has to
Yeah.
start with that person. Whoever is the chair has to qualify. And maybe the tradition of that is that you like make people feel comfortable, so that like if
Yeah.
you're a new person at the meeting and you're feeling like crap, that
Mhm.
you see this person who shares a little bit of their story, and maybe they feel more comfortable and confident that they're there. But they don't really use that terminology around here, although that might be
Right.
changing now, because of now everything's all getting mixed together with
Yeah.
Zoom, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It could be. And, it might be depending on how long people have been in AA, because I
Mhm.
think the people that were talking about it, or who had questions about me having questions, were people with a couple of decades of
Yeah.
sobriety. And so, yeah, so I think it's a regional thing of how
Oh,
you
yeah.
think of qualifying.
Yeah.
And that over here, we had a lot of the more thumper type of stuff. And
Yeah.
so in a lot of the meetings, there's this meeting we're talking about solution. And so if you
Right.
were to share, your qualifying, they would consider that as not being in solution. And so,
Uh-huh.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
interesting, the regional differences. And I
Yeah.
feel like, there's some of that with terms like gratitude and stuff as well. So
I think
I'm
those
sure that we
regional
have.
differences come from, and I'm no expert on this, but I think it's like, in the very beginning when they had the Akron people and the New York people, two,
Yeah.
two different kinds of AA, really,
Yeah.
and like on the East Coast, the New York people were more into their stories. They're sharing the
Hmm.
stories.
Yeah.
And the Akron people were more in the get on your knees and pray to God,
Right. Right.
and it's like we're in the Akron area here,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so we have the Akron AA, the Dr. Bob AA, and then the New York is the Bill W, I guess, AA.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Paula says, I don't have to be grateful to do a gratitude practice. This is what you were talking about, Angela.
Yeah.
I redirect my mind and the feeling may follow.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly what you
Yeah.
were talking about. And I think there's a lot to that. And that's what I was actually trying to do this week. And it just
Hmm.
really wasn't working. I could not shake it. And I just think that I just had to wait for time to go by, so to accept whatever change was going on in our lives here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think right now, I mean, I keep saying right now as if, times have not been hard before, but, there's
Uh,
just so much right
oh,
now,
I know. I
and
know.
so I think that anything that happens can feel a bit more intense and may
Yeah.
take a little bit more time. At least for me, they're taking more time for me to process and to, get my head back on straight if it was, to begin with, and things like that. I have to be a little more patient with myself and others um, in this period that we're going through, and who knows, I probably will have to for the rest of my life now,
Mm,
but yeah. It's definitely changed me, um,
yeah.
and I'm really, like I said, needing to figure out what I'm paying attention to. Where is my attention at? Is it on what I would like it to be on, which is being a caring person and a productive member of society and continuing to learn and grow, or is it in fear and reacting to all the different stimulus that's being thrown at me
Mm,
constantly?
mm,
Where
mm-mm.
I have to be more intentional right now.
Yep.
So, and a gratitude practice is helpful with that.
Joe Bob R. He says that he understood gratitude. This is kind of like Dale. He understood
Mhm.
gratitude literally being thankful to God for removing one's mental obsession. He says we never discuss gratitude in the secular AA meetings that he attends, and he's thankful for that. Where
Mm.
do you attend your meetings, Joe Bob? Joe Bob, it sounds like you're in Texas, but I could be totally wrong on that. Anyway,
I, I
sorry.
think I think both John and I are grateful we're not in Texas. So, yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I get that too. So okay, so that was Joe Bob. Next one
Mhm.
down. Oh, Robert says he always closes with "I'm grateful that you're all here." He closes his comments. "I'm grateful you're all here tonight."
Yeah.
And Joe says, "I'm grateful I chose the right sponsor. I'm grateful I had the help to get through my past and partially navigate the present." Joe, did you ever listen to the tape by not Doctor, but Reverend Ward Ewing?
Yeah. Reverend
Joe
Ewing.
was kind of hesitant about listening to that. He didn't want to know. He didn't want
Oh,
to.
yeah. Reverend Ewing's cool, Joe.
Yeah.
It's all good. I know that there was some controversy on, some people have some feelings about Reverend Ewing, and I hope
Uh-huh.
they do a fourth step on it or 10th step or
Well,
something, because I think he's,
I thought it was a
he's
good
a great
talk.
person.
What
Yeah.
was funny is for some reason Mark
Hmm.
K Mark is it C Mark C I can't remember C or K
Hmm.
anyway it's that sound anyway Mark Mark
This is what
said
happens, you guys, when you don't call in. So if
right.
you're not enjoying this week's podcast.
But Mark said he wanted to hear the Reverend Ward Ewing's talk,
Mhm.
and people said, "Oh, I don't want to hear some preacher, blah blah blah," and so we have it posted on A Beyond Belief. So I posted a link there, and Mark listened to it, and he actually liked it. And then
Mhm.
Joe says, "Ooh, I don't know if I want to listen to a preacher,"
Yeah.
but anyway, let's see what Mary has to say. Practicing gratitude is the way I stay sober and sane. Having experienced many kinds of losses, I don't take anything for granted as I once did. That's the silver lining in the hard times for me. You
Hmm.
get what you focus on. Again, just like what you're saying, Angela. I am writing this with able fingers. I'm hearing you with good ears. I'm horizontal on a couch under a roof with food in the refrigerator. I'm grateful to be sober. And if that is spiritual bypassing, the more please. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think when I think of spiritual bypassing, it's just more of the, if you're feeling yucky, you should be grateful. So just going, instead of processing why
Hmm.
you're feeling yucky or why you're
Right.
unhappy or whatever,
Well,
just
that's what I
be
was trying to
grateful.
do. That's what I
Yeah,
was trying
I
to do.
know, and
Yeah.
and it didn't work out that well.
No,
Huh?
no, it didn't work that well. I just had to deal with it. It was just crazy. But I couldn't
Right.
work that day. It was like, man, I just couldn't get anything done. There was one person at work that I would text to about it, and we would talk, and she kind of went through the same thing with her husband losing his job,
Hmm.
So it's just kind of going around. I never linked gratitude to a god, says Bubbles Blonde, who's also known as Bree.
Hmm.
I wrote Bree's anonymity. I never linked gratitude to a God, quite the opposite. I came to view gratitude as a part of acceptance/serenity. The equation I have worked out is my acceptance equals quality of my serenity.
Hmm.
Acceptance, yeah, acceptance is big. I think that's basically what happened here. In my case, I just grew to accept what the new life situation is here.
Hmm.
Um, things are fine. Things are fine. Just keep moving.
Yeah. Yeah. And it might go up and down. That's kind of
Oh
like
yeah,
with the grief process and
it
everything
sure
else,
is.
is that, yeah, that you're like, okay, I'm cool right now. I have some gratitude. I have some serenity. And then, you might see or feel or remember something and then be like, and it brings it
Mm,
up again. And so I think that's why having it as a practice again of something that you do either daily or you sit down weekly, gratitude journals, whatever it is that helps, is what keeps it going, keeps
yeah.
that neural pathway strong or something like that,
Mhm.
is that
Mhm.
just doing it even when you don't feel like it. So which I think you showed by making this the topic this week,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that you didn't feel it, and so you made it the topic so that you could talk about it.
Yeah.
And
It was helpful, by the way. This has been helpful for me. It's a great meeting. So it's just what I needed, actually. It's just good to get to talk about whatever is going on,
right.
and you're so right, Angela. There's so freaking much going on in the world right now, and there's just so much change. I mean, our lives have just been upended by this COVID thing all over the world, and it's just it's been going on for a long time now, and sometimes it gets to you. It gets to me anyway. Sometimes.
Right.
Paula says that she agrees that conventional AA meetings, most people think of gratitude as a gratitude to God. Yeah, yeah. I think that's true around here, Paula, for a large extent.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, I don't really go to the traditional meetings anymore. I stopped that a long time ago. Well, I stopped that when we started our group. Um, she says, I wonder what other word could be used without the God connotation. Thankful sure doesn't work. I just think grateful just means it's just how I feel. And I'm just, it's a feeling. It's not like, to me, it's not, that's how I think of it. I don't think of it as like an obligation that I have to be grateful to something. I'm more grateful that things are as they are and I'm okay with it, I guess.
Yeah. I think grateful is just kind of more of a word that has come together for most of us to find similar meaning for it. But I think it's connected to a feeling as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
oftentimes on this show and in meetings, we talk about things as if it's all intellectual from our neck up type of a
Right.
thing, and that gratitude for me has become more of a feeling when I go to think
Mm.
about something and I'm truly, either trying to be intentionally grateful or, cultivating that, or I just notice there's a feeling in my body of what I feel. And it's kind of like a release of breath type of a thing.
Mm.
And so, yeah, so I think that that's much, much different from the word thankful.
Yeah.
Again, I think there's some connotations there that are not always helpful. Sometimes it's the right term, but in my recovery, I think gratitude is a bit more relatable for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Joe Bob, I suppose if one thinks that problem drinking is a spiritual malady, regardless of belief in God, then these seeming spiritual practices and platitudes are appropriate on a case by case basis. Yeah. Well, I was reading something. I don't know what it was. Maybe I was reading something. I don't know where it came, but I ran across that phrase spiritual malady. It
Mm-hmm.
was this, I was reading, I mean, who knows what I was reading. It was a big book. And who knows why I was reading it. But I ran across that, and it really is kind of an odd thing, a spiritual malady.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, to me, all that is just emotional distress or emotional imbalance or whatever. But yeah, if you do think of it as a spiritual thing, though, then yeah, it's all God. It's all God and spiritual stuff, I guess. But
Well, I think it can be, but I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't say that just as a spiritual malady that grateful is helpful for. I mean,
yeah,
like the way I come to it is more of the positive psychology and the
grateful for.
studies and new learning, which is actually old learning, but um, newly written about ideas about, for me personally, trauma
Mm,
and understanding how that affects development and psychological mindset and things like that. And so those things show that gratitude, secular gratitude, is helpful. Yeah, and
mhm.
so you don't have to have a particular belief or faith system or any of that. I mean, I certainly don't. It's just more of, like I said, a sense feeling.
Yeah. David, another one of my KC peeps.
Hmm.
Not grateful to, grateful for. That's pretty much how I see it. That's pretty much how I see it too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yay. Thomas L. It seems to me that the most gratitude problems stem from seeing gratitude as a duty.
Yeah.
Gratitude that's how I see it, Thomas. Gratitude is more of a feeling. And that's what I was trying to do this week. I was trying to make myself feel different. To
Right.
feel that you are wrong for feeling what you feel is almost universally harmful. To feel that you're wrong. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I got a message, Thomas. A friend of mine is Dutch, and he called me a term that he says means a delightful fruitcake. But when I put it into Google Translate, it says pretty insane. And, both can be true for me, but I thought maybe Thomas might know whether the person was being kind or not, because I assumed that Swedish people would know Dutch. And
Oh.
but I did think of you, Thomas, when having this conversation with someone. I'm like, I'm going to check with Thomas and see if run this by somebody who might be able to tell me which is true.
I lived in the Netherlands when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I used to know a little bit of Dutch.
Ooh.
Yeah, but there's no way I would know it now. No, not now though. But that was like a million years ago. But I still love the Netherlands, and one of these days I'd like to go back there and see it again as an adult.
I'd love to go. I'd love to go anywhere.
I know, right now.
That's where we're at right now.
One of these days I will
go anywhere.
Americans travel again.
Yeah. The word is pratig gestord. I think there's a restaurant in Sweden that's named that as well. So PRETTIG, and then second word GESTOORD. So yeah. So if anybody wants to let me know if I was insulted, I would appreciate that. No, it doesn't matter either way. It was a funny conversation, but yeah, that's one of the great things about the pandemic. But that I've got to know all these people a little bit, on because of it. That through Zoom meetings and through the Facebook group and stuff. So I suppose that there's gratitude in the connections that I'm making and have made because of this. I'm not grateful for the disease unless it starts killing off the people I want it to kill off.
Right.
But yeah, no, I appreciate this.
Yes, I do too. I mean, there are some good things that have come from this. I mean, this live stream, for example, has come from this. All these Zoom meetings that have come out of this, all of these like seminars, like the Higher Paloozas and the emotional sobriety seminars and all this kind of stuff, this growing community of secular people in AA online. There's a lot of good stuff that has come from this. Thomas says that Dutch and Swedish are both Germanic, but fairly far apart in the language family.
Dang it. I'm gonna have to find somebody Dutch then. Never mind, Thomas.
Yeah. So seeing Mary reminded me. She sent me a text message wanting to know what she could do to help with the what is it called, ICSA, virtual ICSA. So yes, we do need people to get involved with that, and you can email. I'm going to put someone in charge of this email, but that's not me. It's secularAA@gmail.com. secularAA@gmail.com. Send them an email and let them know that you want to help with the thing, the ICSA, virtual ICSA. And Mary, if you'd like to do like a workshop or a panel or give some sort of a presentation, you're welcome to do that. In fact, anyone that would like to do that is welcome to do that. There's a lot of different things you can talk about. There's been let's go to the AA Beyond Belief audio page and listen to some of the talks that were given at the Toronto conference.
Yeah,
there were some really great panels.
This could be one. What good is gratitude?
What good is gratitude?
Yeah. So
what the hell is gratitude?
I thought, maybe a better word is appreciation. Maybe we should just go to. But then I guess appreciate reminds me of kids from TV shows that are told you should be, why don't you appreciate that? So I don't know. Maybe appreciation isn't a good word either. But yeah.
I'm just having a deja vu experience, and it's got to be that we've had this meeting before. I don't know.
Probably have. Yeah. Or we're in a simulation.
Yeah. Those are weird. Those deja vu. Yeah. So anyway, we're coming up towards the end here. It's been fun. I thank you everybody for joining us. It's been great to see so many people here. We've had between 25 and 30 people throughout the entire evening. That's great. It just goes to show that there's not much to do, is there? Anymore. But I do love this. We'll do one more comment from Bree here. Secular AA is going to change human philosophy for the better. Oh my goodness, that's a lot. As we learn how to connect worldwide, I already see some changes moving in that direction. That's my humble opinion, of course. Yeah, and Bree has really investigated, these meetings. She goes to the meeting in Paris a lot, and she's gone to meetings in Austin, all over the place. She's really embraced it. She really enjoys that. the Zoom meetings. But I've just been kind of personally just been doing AA Beyond Belief, and that's okay for now. So anyway, I guess we're coming up to the end here. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and close out now. I don't have the old. We'll just do this one. Oops. Oh. And that's it. That's another episode of AA Beyond Belief, the podcast. Thank you so much for listening, everybody, and thanks for participating in the stream, on YouTube and in Facebook. It's always a lot of fun. And have a nice weekend. I'm so glad it is the weekend. Y'all take care. Be well. We'll be back again next week.